Before the video gets started today, I would like to give a special shout out to my patrons: Bernadette Reeve, Jacob Clancy, Katze der Nacht, Coley Claudette, Crow at the SOL, Minister Elana C. Henderson, Antonio Contreras, Kahlest Enoch, Ghost Eagle 1991, Howard Rholetter, Brian S. Morrow, Mathew Bergman, Jen Parsons, Jen M., the Schmeister, and Brenda Welby. Thank you all so much, and if you'd like a special shout out, consider becoming one of my patrons. And now, let's get into it. The holidays can be a hard time of year for so many people. Some don't have any family to spend time with, or money to buy gifts. So when the holidays come around, it can be especially challenging, depressing, adding to an already downtrodden spirit. So this year, I hope I can gift to you a few warm fuzzies, make you feel like there is some good in the world, that not everything and everyone is as bad as it seems. And maybe I'll inspire you to be that for someone else too. Enjoy. When I was 6 years old, my parents were getting a divorce, and my mom was pregnant with my little brother, so things were really rocky for us. On Christmas Eve, my mom got a phone call, and the woman on the phone said that they had heard we were having a rough time and asked if it would be okay if Santa came to visit. We lived in a tiny town, so my mom wasn't too surprised that many people knew what was going on. A little later, we heard bells, and down the road came a horse-drawn carriage with a real-life Santa. He came in and gave me a Cabbage Patch Kid doll. It was the 80s. To this day, we still don't know who Santa was or who called my mother. Every year, I send a little thank you by trying to do something special for someone else who might need it. They taught me what Christmas is really all about, and I never get tired of seeing other people's faces light up when I've been able to be their Santa. The year was 1931. Ed and Julia Stewart were driving home on Christmas Eve when they suddenly got a flat in the middle of the Arizona desert. While her husband changed the tire, Mrs. Stewart wandered off for a bit. Because what happened next was so amazing, we won't even imply that she was going to go to the bathroom. Mrs. Stewart came across an old hat box with an abandoned but totally healthy newborn baby girl inside. Now, this all took place a few miles outside of Superior, Arizona, a tiny town which in 1931 was probably only populated by the Stewarts and an old dachshund with polio. Even today, there is literally nothing surrounding the town but a depressing wasteland. So just think of what kind of astronomical odds it took for this couple to get a flat tire in close proximity to this discarded baby, allowing them to save her life. What's even more incredible is that the Stewarts then decided to hand the little Christmas miracle over to the authorities so she could be legally adopted by properly vetted people. 17 couples applied to adopt the Hatbox baby, but due to bad weather, only 2 of them managed to show up to the hearing. The judge ultimately granted custody to one couple, and they named her Sharon. Sharon Elliott never met her biological parents, but with the support of her adopted parents, she did eventually work in the aerospace industry, which, considering that she was a woman raised in 1930s Arizona, is a miracle in its own right. I was 8 years old. It was a couple days after Christmas, and my mother had found a present that she bought for me in her closet. instead of just giving it to me and have that be that. She snuck out onto our back deck and threw it onto the roof. My parents called me out, showed me the gift. My dad got a ladder and spotted me while I got it down. I still remember the butterflies thinking, wow, he really came. Santa was up on this roof, and this fell out of his sleigh? The gift was a pink Barbie camera, but I will never forget that feeling. When my family was all able to get together for Christmas, we always went to Christmas Eve Mass. Even though I don't really identify with any religion, Christmas Eve Mass is beyond beautiful. The choir's voices were so lovely and strong that the entire building shook with song. My older brother wasn't going to be able to make it to Christmas because he lived too far away, and Christmas just did not seem the same. As we stood there in our fancy holiday finest and sang carols, it wasn't until my older brother walked in during Angels We Heard on High that it finally felt like Christmas. He had driven for 13 hours straight to make it in time for the holiday. My family was crying, and I'll never forget how it felt. Like my own Christmas miracle. For that reason, I've always loved that song, and it was so nice to have my Christmas wish come true. As a child, like most any child, I always wanted a kitten. My mother would never hint at getting me one, but if I asked, "Mom, can I have a kitten yet?" it would be followed up with a typical mom speak of, "Are you ready to handle that kind of responsibility?" Of course the answer was always that I could. Christmas Eve 1992. My mom was out of the house, but it did not seem odd to me. Like any other day, errands needed to be completed. It was about 11:30 in the morning. My mom came in the front door of the house carrying a cardboard box. "Allison, come here." She said this as I curiously made my way over. She put the box on the ground, and I saw this little black and white paw stick out of the box. Was my reaction joy? Elation? No. I shouted, "I can't handle that responsibility." Though the shock hit me like a ton of bricks as an 8-year-old, I had Kevin, named after Kevin McAllister from Home Alone. I had Kevin the cat for 17 years. He died after a good hearty life on August 30th of 2009, a date I can't forget. I was, of course, sad at the time, but so happy I had had him. My baby Kevin was the best present I ever received. He brought me pure joy, and every Christmas, I remember him fondly with a big smile on my face. My most heartwarming holiday memory is when my 3rd grade teacher gave each student in our class a personalized letter from Santa. I remember after we all got the letters, we came into school the next day really freaking excited that Santa wrote to us, and we couldn't stop telling our teacher about how Santa sent us letters. It always brings a smile to my face when I remember that time. One year when I was younger, my parents were struggling financially. One of the ladies my mom works with asked my mother what my brother and I wanted for Christmas. My mother told her, and the lady bought exactly what we wanted, gave it to my parents to give to us on Christmas morning. To this day, my brother still says it was the best Christmas present ever. And it wasn't until a couple years ago that my mother told us it was her coworker that bought us the toys to give to us from Santa. We may not have had a Christmas that year if it wasn't for her generosity. When I was 6 years old or so, I received an orange from my great-grandmother. I didn't understand why someone had given me fruit for Christmas. until I learned many years later that this was my great-grandmother's favorite gift when she was a kid in the 1910s. It was her tradition and her way to remind us that small things could make us very happy. One Christmas morning, my parents woke up my siblings and I and told us that they had secretly videotaped Santa last night, and we just had to see it. At this point, we had started to question if Santa was real or not. But when we saw that video of Santa putting gifts under the tree and eating the cookies we left, any doubt we had was gone. Years later, we found out that my parents had found a Santa suit at the store and stayed up all night recording the video. We still talk about that video every year at Christmas, and it's definitely something I plan on doing with my own kids. It was 1917, and Christmas was coming. But because her brother Archie Kleckman was missing in action and presumed dead, the family was not going to celebrate. The townspeople of Parker, South Dakota, always joked that the small town's postmaster read all the postcards whenever the mail train came into town. On that Christmas Eve, he lived up to his reputation. The family was always grateful for that postmaster. Instead of waiting for the rural mail to go out the day after Christmas, he called my grandmother and told her that Archie was being held as a prisoner of war, and that Archie even wrote on the postcard that he was well. Of course, my mother said that that turned out to be the best Christmas ever. Archie came home after the war and lived to a ripe old age. This one is my own personal story, and it isn't about a special gift or one special Christmas in particular, but specifically about my grandmother. I'll spare you all the sad and depressing details of my life that involve deep poverty and even more things that will just bum you out, including myself, but instead tell you about her. She might have been 5 feet tall, and each time she saw each one of her 4 grandchildren, she would get really excited and scream and fling her arms open wide and hug us so tight. She would then proceed to give us all a super wet grandma kiss that we would all giggle about and wipe off immediately afterwards. For years, we would travel the hours to spend Christmas with her. Sometimes it was because my parents had nothing to give us, and my grandmother would always come through. I honestly can't remember what one single gift was, but I will never forget that feeling of relief as I basked in the love I got from my grandma. There are some people in this world that have no idea that their kindness changes other people's lives, and my grandmother's love definitely changed mine. If it weren't for her, I'm not sure I would have truly known what that pure love felt like. She expected nothing in return. She just loved me. She taught me that love was unselfish, unexpecting, and that it lives on with you for years after those moments are gone. I miss her so much, especially lately. I would give anything to have just one more hug from that little woman who loved me so much. There are some things in this world that you simply cannot put a price tag on. Holidays are important not because of the gifts we bring, the stress we put on ourselves to perform an immaculate masterpiece to make everyone happy. There are moments we steal in a laugh, a hug, time with a relative or a friend we might not have gotten normally, but because of the holiday, it's been carved out for us. Those feelings and memories last the rest of the year, and if you're lucky, they'll last you a lifetime. I like to call it Christmas magic. This priceless thing that's created by the happiness we try to give to others, that occasionally makes its way back to you. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. See you next time.